In the distant 2000, I don't remember what year, Crytek released such an advanced shooter that modern consoles at the time were not been able to pull it. Well, either Crytek was not able to put the game onto the consoles, one of two. And since Ubisoft is known for its love of deteriorating everything it touches, it was they who undertook to transfer this game to consoles. They only had enough talent for the Xbox, and therefore both games, Far Cry Instincts and Instincts Evolution, came out only on it. Also, they were called the port of the original Far Cry, had nothing in common except the main character and some models. And a little later, at Xbox 360, these two games were built into one, correcting the graphics and calling it Instincts Predators, so that buyers in a distant land would get confused and thinking that it was a new game. They bought it. Because the words remaster at the time were not yet invented. So we drove to see if Ubisoft copied the first attempt to make a Far Cry game.
Far Cry Instincts Predator.
The game starts, thank God, not from the pre-rendered cutscene, which was painful to look at for all parts of the body, but from the usual one on the engine, and immediately from the eyes of main character, so as not to bother much with his animations. Heroes as the original sailed inside a look and wreck and certain ship. Also, it was impossible to understand what they were doing in some original game, so I just assumed. The woman came a little closer to us, and in such a distance you can already notice that she still looked terrible for the Xbox, but for the remaster 360 box is already hurts. This wench is climbing out of S to get those wreckage that Jack does not want to get close in any way. And why does he not want to get closer? Intrigue. The main character, like real man, decided that the woman would do all the work herself, and therefore lay down to sleep. But walking up after time, I found that she still hadn't returned. Also, she promised to return in 2 hours, and helicopters fly around the ship, which begin to shoot at it. The boat explodes, and therefore there is nothing left but go and search the woman. From the very first frames, you can understand that Ubisoft worked on the plot much better than Crytek, who didn't bother with it at all, for which Ubisoft can only be praised. The gameplay began, and at the first we did some reason decided to show us the text in form of the plot, which we already know. Judging by the fact that I am now receiving damage from the helicopter that hangs over my head, it means that he see me, but when he rises to the top, he will instantly forget about me. And the stealth segment will begin, where all opponents will stand their backs to me, because you only need to stand with your back to man. But the game shouldn't be given credit. In the original, if I remember it well, and I remember it badly, there was no stealth, so think is pleasant innovation. One of the tricks of stealth are traps that can be placed in different places and set opponents on them. Stealth has only one problem, that's spoiled, but I'll get to it later. Since this is a first-person shooter for Ubisoft, they realized that they could easily screw up in the gamepad controls, which could make the game unplayable. With control they successfully crap, and therefore they made such a huge hitbox for opponents that is stupidly unrealistic to not hit to them. And since the controls here is the most convenient, I would attribute this more to the pluses. And besides such a hitbox, the difficulty of the game has become much lower, which is just great, because the original game in our time to play without cheats, it's like passing a Dark Souls with a keyboard with your feet. Yes, and the opponents, in addition to becoming dumber, also stop using cheats. Oh, and all opponents who notice you shoot you through the walls. I won't notice it here, it's very good. But at times the game was still quite heavy. Not because the game designers are opponents, but because of this crooked control. So even though they made the game a lot easier, the clumsy control still deserves a scene. Having found some kind of earpiece lying on the wheel, Jack immediately decided to put it in his ear, because if there is an opportunity to put something into himself, a real man will not hesitate to take advantage of this opportunity. And in the earpiece, some incomprehensible dude told us that we should take from this place, because the helicopter is about to blow him up. And so it happened. The hero dived into water, emerged somewhere on the shore, and the earpiece in the ear did not even think of falling out from breaking for moisture. He told us to go for a walk around the island to get the girl who disappeared, and who is now the only option for salvation, to which the swarm answered.
It's nuts. I'm not gonna go wander around some jungle crawling with militia rejects.
He is such a picky main character, but as it were, you have no other choice. You either go somewhere or stand here and wait until they burn you. I also wanted to find out which the fact the military send helicopters and batch soldiers after little men, but when this one is little easy, endures everything that comes in your way with pistols, you can do otherwise. And therefore I will reproach the fact that the main character also he had cameos past, still it's too easy to single-handedly deal with the armed military. military man with the help of ordinary pistols, easily penetrates the military base and crack down on everyone who would not catch his eye. Yes, this is contradict the fact that I praise the game for being simple, but I'm not here to think about the logic of my words, save me alone. I got into the car and noticed that while driving the hero can also shoot. And what does the hero do with the weapon, judging by its location? Somewhere in the hood, and therefore it's even scary to me to imagine in what position he's sitting behind the wheel now. The very same control of the machine is pretty crap and not very convenient. In the second part they will go a little better work on this. Exploding red barrels cliché. Also, the fall of this tower is scripted. It is still pretty beautiful for that time. This is how I parked my car. The located screen started, after which the hero is already on the feet and even limping while walking after such an accident will not sink. After that we received a call of experience from the same dude.
You have to get Val away from the mercs, and you're totally outnumbered. You need to switch to guerrilla tactics.
Why should I change tactics in the main character is an unkillable Terminator that easily moved down hundreds of opponents? I understand introducing stealth in the original game. There are a few cartridges and you can die often. It is useful there, but here, as it were, stealth just lengthened the game. Yes, this is cool innovation, but a little senseless, which was never necessary to use. But be that as it may, I blew up some kind of hangar. I fucked on an ATV on which I was blown up and a cutscene started, where we met the main villain, who holds out range captive and tells us follow him scrap. He did not throw it during the fight. Why it was impossible to put me in a helicopter and take me to the place so that I wouldn't kill a dozen more things along the way, it's not clear. As a result, the hero also lost sight of his helicopter and now he will have to look for his boss again in a new way. What was the meaning of that scene then? After shooting a little dudes who were shooting at my range, I dared to sleep and peel a few me. Before finally falling asleep, the hero said something about the mother of the mercenaries.
Shut your mouth, bitch!
And I went to visit them in captivity, where a certain doctor told me some information.
I know you've had a rough day, so I'll keep this brief. I've been following your feud with Colonel Crow here. You proved to be a clever and tenacious thorn in his side. That's why you're still alive.
I can still agree, but smart, by what actions of his could be determine the level of his insanity. As I did was run in a machine gun, overweight and shoot opponents that I met the way, some kinds of mind of this I think is not required. And because I'm so smart, they injected some kind of drug into me so that I turn out in some monster. By the way, long time before that, we will toward the EPZ, we were told on the earpiece that our range has stolen and gone and thus managed to escape from this final boss. But if she had gun in her hands, why didn't she just shoot him? The protagonist woke up in some container where it turns out his arm is pumped up as such an excellent so he can break through the locked doors of this container with it. The joke about jerking off is not appropriate here, it is... Yes, not. There are sometimes moments when the eyesight and having opponents break down, so that much along with it, any pain from an automatic magazine that gets into breaks. I don't know how much you need to shoot a helicopter for it to explode, but during the time that I fired at it, I was almost completely convinced that I blew up, or at least somehow damaged it, machine gun not possible. And so we got to Val, whose arms apparently are pumped up more than those of main character, since she was able to lightly touch this man's neck and break her to the death. Is the joke about jerking off still relevant? No, not relevant. From the dialogue, it turned out that the villain smuggled her laptop with some mega secret information that the programmers are now deciphering, and supposedly if they can do it, then we are all fucked. Why we are fucked, what kind of data in this that destroy us, of course no one will think about it. But in any case, we need to get to this laptop before the nerds have time to decrypt everything that need to be decrypted here. And to be more precise, not us, but to me, because...
I have other orders. But you can put these new talents to use.
Because apparently writing artificial intelligence for a Ubisoft partner was not yet good. We found the nerd, saved the computer, and through the turret section with infinite ammo, through two turret sections with infinite ammo, drove through the sieves for the place, which in essence is rather dull, not particularly visually interesting cave. On the way, LGBT colors began to scare me, the reason for which was this tower, which emitted an LGBT signal directly into my ears. Next we met a mini-boss who is more mutated version of me, and thank God in this game there will not be as much mutants and any other of the original game, because in the original game it was an improbable fuck. Right there also they are heavy, they are quite rare, which is good. We scolded that voice in the earpiece for not warning about the weirdo, and he replied that he didn't warn us about him a reason. What could it be? Why didn't he tell us anything? Intrigue. And so we found the voice that chasing us in the ear, and then Rage stole a scooter. I lay down on the couch so that they cured my pumped arm, but something went wrong and I overhealed consumed everyone who has around me. On the way the complex I came across mutants who fucked both enemy soldiers, which is quite useful at times when you run out of ammo or low health. You can just sit and wait until they overplay each other. This was followed by a rather funny joke called Captain Obvious in reverse.
I'm dead!
I know. Crow's reinforcements are gonna be here any second. It's gonna take a few minutes for me to get to the control room and open this.
That's fine. I'll stick around and entertain the troop.
In other words, you will be busy shooting waves of opponents until the time runs out cliché, also in parallel with turret section. Oh, this 2000 games. What are you all like? Going inside, we found Dr. Krieger, who told us that Crow had thrown him and that he had to urgently stop, and supposedly he went over to our side. Nothing argues trouble. The screenplay is excellent. I fully believe that he is now good. By the way, at the experience of the Zero games, the boss is a helicopter, which is time it became possible to shoot. According to the logic of the game, exploding cars should hang out a meter above the ground. Also, the mutants became super strong after mutating. This did not help their intelligence. I have already lost count of how many of them came too close to window only to fall under the change of my turret. While the door of this room is open and they could have come, is completely unheard from my back and also died, but at least not so fast. Sniper shooting is a pain and suffering. Not only is the hitbox of opponents which much smaller than the rest of the weapon, but the target itself is much smaller, and when firing another weapon, the opponents somehow move and get into the sights themselves. Right there, strain your fingers so as not to break the stick when he once again turned the camera too fast. This big guy pretends to be a mini-boss, but this is the third time I've met him. Like fighting the same dude twice and it's still okay, but 3 or more I'm already fucked up. Give something new for a change.
I was able to piece together Crow's flight path. Apparently he took Doyle to some kind of abandoned helm.
I doubt he's treating malaria cases.
A sudden reference to the second Far Cry, a few years before of the second Far Cry. After descending, our range told us that we need to save Doyle right as hell, and only then fight the final boss. Why this Doyle is important, of course no one will say. Having found the Doyle, it turns out that the final boss had injected himself with a bunch of the shit that they injected with me, and therefore he will soon turn into a fucking healthy mutant of the aggressor, which we will need to defeat until he is order spoiled. Outwardly, he will remain the same humanoid.
Do we head straight to Krieger's?
Normally, yes, but his villa's on the slopes of an active volcano. At the moment, the ash cloud is making it impossible to fly in.
A volcano. Did he learn that in supervillain school or something?
It's a final boss cliché, but it just didn't stop it from being a final boss incredibly cliché even at the time. While we were flying to this volcano, we were hit by a rocket, after which I fell. Oh, how convenient, into the water over which we were flying after that moment. And through the same as the original game, but much simpler wasteland with a bunch of enemies, we got to Deadpool from the movie, the beginning of Wolverine. And we got into long traveling elevators, which serves as a replacement for a loading screen, which took us to the final boss. And Dr. Krieger, who, like that, unexpectedly continues to be a villain. I am so surprised that I am freaked out. Boss fight look as shooting bunch of standard opponents, I generally stupid stool still and shoot them all with a turret. Fun fucking. And then shooting the final boss himself, on which bullets need to fire decently, but nowhere in the time indicator on how much health he have left. He himself does not visually react to this, and therefore even understood whether he is being dealt at least some damage or need to be blamed otherwise. It is not possible to understand. But still I defeated the boss and ran to kill Krieger, who was already going to get there here with a suitcase, but I didn't have to kill him, because after killing my monster, I became the monster one, and therefore all the monsters that protected him, they took my side and hugged the second fan of the boss for shawarma. This is an unexpected twist and in my opinion quite good. I got on the helicopter, they gave me a box, the composition of which they decided to criminalize, and the helicopter flew to the sunset. But this is not the end of the story, as the game has small sequel called Evolution, which we shall switch right now. And this continuation begins quite suddenly in the middle of some kind of shutdown. Some obscure woman tells Carver that sit down at the machine gun and enlarge the turret section with endless ammo stupidly in the very first minute of the game. And the game started suddenly in order to show us how it started in few minutes cliché. In the backstory we are shown a tramping Carver, to whom the save range hooked up over by her drink so it would easier to wear it later. Well, my joke was not so far from truth. But they didn't just fuck, but in order to make it easier for Carver to agree to work with his range for Norman, in the sense of delivering men. Why doesn't anyone order ads from me this way? And so we flew on a plane from Uncharted to the island to complete the task by order to the riser, and parked in such a way that its screen had not faded. This plane would have crashed into piers. But the deal of course was not successful, because in pirates attacked us. us, and therefore the gameplay started, where we started to shoot these pirates. And thank god the gameplay started because it was very painful to watch the animations in the pre-rendered cutscene. The explosion of the bomb breaks the leg of the tower not in a place where it explode, but somewhere above, because physics. As it turns out, the main villain is such a bad guy that he wants to cook and eat the carvers of the woman. This is motivations of motivations, study Anton Pagan and was. Oh yeah, and the villain decided not to kill me because I am strong. The fact that I already killed a bunch of his people and I can continue to do this and spoil his malicious plan, the fuck all this. I got to my woman, but that's a failure. The car does not want to start. And what does it mean? That's right, shooting down waves of opponents until she can start the car. And returning back to the moment which game began. What was the point of showing in the very beginning? That's right, in order to stretch a rather small toy a little bit longer. Bitch, how much of this fucking shooting rage of turrets is here? It's some kind of nightmare.
You work out a lot, don't you?
I don't think I properly thanked you for rescuing me, Jack.
Damn straight.
Oh, are they going to fuck on beach?
Hey, no fair.
The fuck was a success. And we drove to island to which the main villain forbade us to come, which the main character did not like and began to resent.
I was afraid you were gonna say that.
You'd rather stay here and die?
No, I prefer to return the coast where we originally arrived, get on the plane on which we arrived and fly away from here the fuck. What the problem with doing this if we already received payments for the goods? Oh no, burning boards with huge not burning spaces between them. How can I get through this unsurmountable obstacle? I don't even know. Definitely need to split up. I present to your attention the most stupid suicide in history of mankind. A little later, it turned out that this ranch does not want me to leave, because this is her home, and the main villain is something like Pagan Min on minimum wages, and without makeup, and therefore we still have to say it in order to free the island from the asshole who terrorized it. The main character's legs are so fast that they manage to run up and jump even before the corresponding animations had time to scroll. For the entire first part of the game, I expected our partner to be Trail. It didn't happen and I was disappointed, but it doesn't matter because this is a continuation, where our new woman nevertheless decided to betray us for some inexplicable reason.
Women.
Sexist. And after we destroyed some water pumps in order to flood some tunnels for some reason, so that the rebels could not use them, we again meet the traitor, who now decided to stop being a traitor and help us in our task. Lord, what a great plot you have there. This is some kind of fucked up. And then we met a dude who doesn't seem to be a mutant at all. But I had to fire a lot of bullets at him to kill him. Apparently I picked up some kind of machine gun with Chinese cartridges that break before they reach the target. This dude drew Doyle to the window, who somehow managed to survive. And they drove along a Sepsov's cave, stuck in a wall in parallel, why not?
Don't move. You got 3 broken bones I can see.
I'm very happy for you that you see them, but I don't see them anywhere. Returning him to the boat, he was not in place, and therefore I drove him to look. And while I was running looking for him, I was met by some native. He pulled me to sleep only so that I would wake up in a second and shoot them all. What was the point of putting me to sleep and not even taking my weapon? I don't understand. And after a long firefight, I picked up this spot of there from which a dart flies out, which in terms of fight speed is commensurate with machine gun bullet, given how much blood flies out of enemy into whom I fired its dart. And the location began where you need to jump, and I fucked the mouse for sucking jump, which constantly do not reach literally or symmetry to the platform I need. Who the fuck is holding walkie-talkie like that? I successfully found Doyle, albeit dead, but it was such a hardly written character that you won't really notice the difference. Also, this can't be said about any characters here. And so I successfully got to the final boss, which threw me off a cliff. And even though I managed to cliff a branch, all my weapons fell off me, because if you lose one weapon in your hands, you will automatically lose all the weapons that you had in your inventory, cliché. And it would seem that I lost everything in order to fight the boss hand to hand, but no. While I'll get to it, I'll find myself a new weapon. So what was the point of that scene then? While getting back to the boss, I stumbled upon the marines, who it seems did not quite fit the faces. And a second later, the boss ordered the strange-faced warriors to shoot me, and he himself went somewhere so as not to see how they could not shoot me. I have already lost count. Once again, this woman is changed in size. After the first time I stopped being surprised. Stop, please. Well, after that, of course, you didn't need to finish me off.
You keep forgetting the most important thing about us infidels. We cheat.
No, you won not because you cheated, but because this idiot, having a bunch of opportunities to finish you off, didn't use them at all. Naturally, we forgive the girl and the game was over. Well, what about those two games can be said? I would not be sad that I didn't get any pleasure from the game, but still, like the original game on PC, these are products of their time, which plays on the shelf in the Museum of Antiques. That the game this one is particular interest in mine, but once you checked out what the headlights were like in the first years of experience, why not? This game is still on sale on Xbox Live, so anyone can buy it. Well, you subscribe to the channel and report this video so as not to turn into a fucking mutant and watch another video.